I'm going to call the meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, good morning and welcome to our July 2nd, 2024 regular meeting. We are live on Zoom today, so please indicate if you'd like to speak. First of all, we'll have additions to the agenda. Denny?
No.
Amy? No. Christy? No. Ernie?
No.
Myself? No. Christy?
I don't even have anything to the water.
Okay. Write that down. Okay, then next we'll go to the consent agenda, and we've all been given the June 18th regular meeting minutes, and we have the monthly bills. Has the monthly bills gone by and signed? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion for the consent agenda.
So,
Second. Denny and Amy. Any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Okay, employee time, looks like we have the sheriff here.
I'd like to introduce Dave Nico. He is a new employee, started yesterday with us. He was from the Grafton Police Department, so we welcome him.
Happy
Want to
to.
introduce yourselves?
I'm Christy Britnell.
Ernie Barta.
Karen Anderson.
Christy Brown, we met yesterday. Amy Suter.
Danny Corn. Nice to meet you all.
Welcome to. Welcome to this.
Yeah, welcome to all. He's been here.
To the county side.
Yep.
We're glad to have him. Him and his wife have two children. They live in, they own a house in Grafton.
Yay,
Good.
good, okay,
Very good.
Thanks, appreciate it.
thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Yep,
Have a nice day.
okay, you too.
Jacob, you don't happen to live south of the hospital, do you?
Well,
So I,
exactly.
so I won't see the white pickup there anymore.
Well, no, that would be the deputy chief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
I live over by the school, kind of.
okay,
On the
okay,
road.
Okay.
okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice, I got one.
Yeah.
Well, we're a little ahead of schedule. Tanya isn't quite here yet. Ron, you want to just jump to your rehire?
I voluntarily terminated an employee and I'm asking for a rehire. So move.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, Danny,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Christy? Yeah. Ernie?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
So it's still down by two?
Yes. One is for her in the road deputy. Karen, do you want me to talk about the security thing we had with the auditor's office? Did you want me to talk about that or?
Yeah, yes, yes,
I know what.
just go over it
Yeah,
quickly, right?
yeah, yeah.
You, I just emailed this to you,
Oh, okay.
do you want it too, the write-up? I didn't want
As
to,
long as long as they have it.
okay,
That's
okay, I forwarded it.
Yeah, it's under unfinished business.
Perfect,
Okay,
Sorry, I probably,
no, I just,
this is great.
we had somebody from, the US Department of Homeland Security, contact, Christie and, about election security. And this gentleman came and did an election, analysis of our building and, the other buildings and before you his suggestions on that. So, his name was Kenneth Riken.
Or Gershon.
Yeah, there you go. Probably much better.
Yeah.
So, myself, Christy, Brent, Jason, and Karen, spent the morning with him and, We went through the whole courthouse, the dispatch area and the law enforcement center, just to show him the capabilities of our camera system. So those are his suggestions. I know he also said that he was willing to come and do some training, and some of his topics I thought were maybe right on for what Brent was doing. So I think him and Brent were gonna collaborate on some training moving forward. So he was very thorough and I thought he did a great job. He had a lot of suggestions and he was very interested in the possible jail courthouse expansion. So a lot of his findings might play into some of that, but he was very interested in the security we have and there's suggestions on how to improve that. So
Any questions for Rob? Yes, Amy.
So would that be something you would implement him in as the jail goes along for consideration? I mean, could that change some of the potential?
I think it would play into maybe the layout of the cameras, some of the stuff. Once you start getting the shell up and that sort of stuff, but yes, I think some of his ideas were really good and I'd like to implement some of that moving forward. So yes.
Anything else?
That's all I have unless anybody has any questions for me.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tanya, we are ready for you.
Good morning.
Morning.
So I have just a couple things for you today. I did send you an email. I did make copies of things. Should I have made you copies or do you guys all have what I sent you on the email? Okay. Is it okay if we start with policy stuff first? Let's do that. So the easiest one to start with is just this community volunteer policy. We have our second reading. I have not received any further feedback on it other than supervisors being excited that it was approved. So I have no reason to think that we shouldn't go ahead and approve the second reading and then it would be put in the manual. So.
I make a motion to approve the second
Okay.
reading.
Thank you, Christie.
Second.
Amy, second. Any more discussion on the volunteer policy? Second reading. Okay, hearing none, I'll take the vote. Denny?
Yes.
Christie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yeah.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes.
Okay.
Motion carried.
I doubt it'll be an issue, but if it becomes an issue, do you want that 40 hours per year prorated for the time of year, roughly 20 hours a year, then is what that would translate to. That's what we added into that policy language, you know, so I doubt it'll be an issue, but that's how I'll interpret that if it becomes an issue. The next one is the sick leave policy payout. As you recall, this was brought forward just as a possible discussion point, and as a commission, you asked me to just go back to the department head group. Feedback's all over the place, to be honest. There wasn't a lot of really consistent, strong opinions on it. I think there is, in general, there's, support for some sort of payout. The specifics, people are kind of across the board, varied responses. So, and I think I provided to you the first time, I didn't bring that with me today, but I think I provided to you the first time what some of the other counties are doing, and it's kind of similar. It's across the, it's very varied ways that places are doing this. So I don't know if you want to think about this more. I don't necessarily have a strong recommendation for you. It looks like, anywhere from 10 to 25%. There, like I said, half of them say we shouldn't have a minimum. Some say we should. I guess my personal take on that is I am concerned that it's the newer employees that are not devoted to us yet, right? They're not really well committed to us yet. They tend to be the ones that are more at risk for abusing it, I think. So in that respect, I don't know if the minimum would help us, right? It's not gonna help fix that. The flip side of that coin, or the flip side of that argument, is that people shouldn't get a payout, right? They've not earned it yet. Like, it should be our long-term people that maybe have earned that to be able to take something with them. So, and I totally see both sides of that argument, so I don't know how you want to proceed with that.
Amy?
You know, the way I look at a policy like this is even just reading, they're talking about those that abuse it are gonna still abuse it. You know, I think we need to look at an employee that would be considered maybe model in our minds and say, how would we want it set up for them? So that they would have the best out, if you will, versus being penalized and aim to elevate. You know, if we're just trying to chase those that abuse, we're gonna struggle with getting quality employees. So I would prefer we look at things that are gonna not penalize someone who's really committed to us. And I don't think a minimum time work. If
What was the state policy? Was it 10%?
I think it's 10% after 3 then, yeah. And that, looking at the counties, there are a fair number of counties that have copied that, you know, that approach.
I guess that's kind of what I was leaning towards was the 10%. I was thinking a 10% payout. I mean, if we implement this, we can always revise it in the future, right? But I think a good starting point is 10%. Personally, I'd like to see it start immediately. I understand waiting for employees to be vested, that type of thing. But if it even curbed one employee from abusing the sick leave, I think it would help, say, our sheriff's office or our dispatch office or wherever. And we're really not gonna pay out that much, right? Because if they're gonna abuse it, they're gonna continue to abuse it, so they won't have anything to be paid out on.
Right.
So hopefully it just deters some from
Right.
abusing it.
Yeah.
So I guess I was looking at 10% immediate, immediate payout.
Okay.
I do like the idea that we set a max payout because it is a little concerning what it could do to the budget. If you look at your example, I just figured what, somebody has 1,000 hours, we pay out 10%.
If it's a supervisor consideration in their budgeting process, if they are aware of upcoming retirements, because it's the retirements that are gonna be the most paying for the budget, because they are our longtime people who probably have a lot built up, which is fantastic.
Right.
And I know that, I don't know, maybe Christy knows that, working closer with payroll. I know that in the past, we've had employees that have thousands of hours on the books, because they have not abused it at all. And so for a long-term employee, that's not uncommon, so.
And yet, maybe they've either not needed to use their sick leave because they didn't have a major, say, cancer or
Right,
something.
yeah.
Or they're just conscientious. I know some people will use their vacation time for sick leave because they want to build up that sick leave for something catastrophic if ever needed.
Yeah.
So why not have them get a little reward at the end? Yeah, you don't get paid out in full, but if you could get 10%.
Right. I did have a question too about, and I forgot to check into this, I'm just thinking of this now. Somebody asked me about the PERS, PERS allows you to convert sick hours into sick credits. Excuse me. And so somebody asked, are we still able to do that? My understanding, I was gonna verify this with PERS though, just to be certain. My understanding is that if you had 200 hours paid out, that's no longer available to convert, right?
Sure.
So you have the rest of it, say you have 800, you can still convert the 800. I'm quite certain that's how they would handle that. But I can verify that too, just so we know if that should ever become a question, but yeah.
Could we let the employee choose?
Yeah, absolutely. If they didn't want to, they could apply that towards their sick leave credits, and that's not, that there is no cost to us, but it brings down their costs to purchase those sick leave credits, so.
Does the state have a limit? On what they pay out, like if they 10% of so many?
200, I don't know if I didn't bring that sheet with me, I don't think. Do you remember, Jason?
I don't
Previous-
remember,
I don't know if
we,
I can't recall, I'm sorry. I just don't recall.
Just
If
was
they do
curious what the,
If they do, it's 200.
Yeah.
That's the limit that I kept seeing, when I did that first study. And I think I shared that with you guys last time. I did not bring that sheet with me this time.
So that would be like, so 200 hours, we would cap it at, that would be 10%, so they essentially would have.
If they had, you know, yeah, 10% would be
2,000.
200, yeah, 2,000.
They'd have $2,000, so their cap would be, at 10% would be 200.
And that would be a realistic number, or do we feel like that's pretty high for an average, you know, as far as someone?
I think
Sure.
10% is realistic. I don't think we'd wanna go lower.
No, but for 200, like,
Yeah, yeah, I guess I feel like that's reasonable.
I just know, with my employees, you rarely saw a long-term employee that left with, I mean, I had some that left with $2,000 to $2,500 of sick leave,
Yeah,
but that's really up there. you know.
that's your really long time employees. They've been with you for 30+ years. So
Right,
they've
exactly.
been there a very long time. I know there was a time when we had staff in the highway department, you know, and we've lost some of that generation now, they've started to retire, but I remember a time period where we had multiple retirements like that in a row, where we had, you know, 30+ years they had been with us, so.
Mhm.
And they had thousands on the books, you know, and sheriff's department employees, the same thing, I remember a couple, so. It can happen, we don't see it as often anymore, unfortunately, you know, we don't get those long-term employees as often, because people are just much more mobile in their careers these days, but.
Any more questions for Tanya?
I guess I have one other, thing that I feel we should discuss, and it's your last item.
Yep, that policy,
Right, about if we should feel it would be, if we should include in our sick leave policy that is not available for use after a resignation notice has been given. I think that would be very hard to administer. What if someone has to resign because they have a health issue, and then we deny the sick leave that they've worked for all these years? It concerns me a little bit.
Yep, I get that, and that was one of the comments, I don't remember if I expressed that very well in this, you know, in the red there. But that was one of the comments that I received, is that, you know, what if somebody's resigning because of health, you know, they can no longer work. And it's quite possible then that they would need to use that.
Mhm.
And in that respect, part of me thinks, well, that's sort of like knowing in advance, you know, but yet it's much more muddy waters there, right?
Yeah.
It's not that cut and dry. If it's like a dentist appointment, that's really cut and dry, but if somebody is just not well, you know, and they are resigning because of it, it's a little bit harder to implement, so
Hard.
I understand that point, yeah. Mhm.
Is this something we wanna look at getting past today, or are we wanting more time to think on it, or?
I don't need any more time.
Okay,
Okay, well, then I would make a motion that, well, can I just hold up on that? Can we ask if Ron and Jason have any input? I mean, they've got two of the biggest departments in the county, and I guess I'd like to know what they think.
that's totally fine.
Mhm.
I understand your concern about, that last portion of that, but I think that's why you have department heads, right? I've had in the past, somebody say that they're going to, their last day is, let's say the 30th. Well, they put in their resignation letter, and then all of a sudden they're sick the last several days. To me, that's that, but if you know they have a health problem, you'd probably say, okay, yeah, I understand. But if it's somebody that wants to use their sick leave and not work those days, then you gotta say, hey, that's not a good use of your sick time. So I think as long as we empower our department heads to know the difference and to leave it in our discretion, I think it works well. I like that. This should take care of some of that.
Mhm.
I would, yes, I think it's a great thing for us and as department heads.
So Could we leave it to your discretion for this last item? Could we leave it to the department head's discretion? Instead of putting a solid rule in there, because if we implement this, then how do we pay out for someone that maybe does have cancer? Yeah, that's what I'm worried
I'll
about.
leave that up to Tanya to decide how to best implement that.
I think, it might, if it's not a policy, my concern is that, we might open other doors if they choose to deny it, you know, because Ron knows that this person is abusing it, you've been fined, and now suddenly you're gonna take 5 days of sick.
Could we just go back to you have to have a doctor's notice for more than so many days of sick
Right,
leave?
and we did change that recently, right, where we just said it's up to, there's
It's
discretion.
discretion.
We can rely on that portion of policy, yeah, I think you could do that. I mean, ultimately, like, that's already in place,
It is.
yeah, so go ahead, Jason.
With that 3 days though, if they're already gone and they turn in their resignation. Or they're really gonna just send you the doctor's note to set for those, to say, look, out of these 3 days, what are you gonna? I mean, if they're getting paid out for it. If it was on the books ahead of time, by the doctor's plan or something before they turn in their resignation, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, that is.
But to me, I worry more about somebody, I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but say you got 3,000 hours of sick leave. The case of being rare is there, but at that point in time, taking those extra 2 weeks off from work. And calling in sick for 2 weeks isn't gonna hurt what your payout is gonna be, especially if it was capped at that 10% when you're at $200. Because you're gonna have $1,000. So it's a worst case scenario. I don't think that when you have a staff that's been with you that long and would have that type of hours built up, would do that.
Right.
But
Sorry, but then, maybe I'm just assuming, but it's hard when somebody resigns and then you're short somebody. That's, and you know, they're taking the sick leave and, oh, now we don't have a deputy on the road because now they're sick. And maybe not, I don't know, it's hard to even decide who, if they are or not, so that's a slippery slope too. So, I think that's maybe more what you're talking about, Ron,
It is,
when you
yeah.
can't be covered and.
And ultimately, I mean, you know, you would have the discretion to say, I need a doctor's note to approve these
Right.
sick leave days.
If not, if they don't produce that, then it's vacation
Yeah,
and not sick. So there
That's-
are ways of,
yeah,
I think, of administering it as the department head.
yeah, okay.
So maybe without a motion, we could just have Tanya. Can we have you just prepare something maybe with?
Yeah.
Going on kind of what our thoughts are, are we looking at the 10% or how do you
Sure.
feel about that, the 10 versus 25, I mean, of
I,
course.
I think the 10% is a great compromise. I think that goes along with the state policy and, I'm very happy with that.
Well, Tanya, if you wanna get that, you know, ready and we can just put it on unfinished business next time and vote on it.
Sure.
How does that sound?
And was it 3 years then, following the state for minimum time?
I think.
I would prefer no minimum just because I think it's helping, say, Ron and his department with his newbies.
Okay.
You know, so if they know they're gonna get paid out for, if they're gonna abuse, they're gonna abuse it, right?
Right.
But maybe there's a little incentive there for those new ones then to think, well, I don't wanna use the sick day because I can get paid out on it if I'm
Yep.
gonna leave in 6
Yep.
months.
Yeah.
I can get paid out on a portion of it.
Jason?
it can also be used as a recruiting tool, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It might be that one little, someone's right on that hair of the edge, but they're gonna take the job or not, but if they know that, hey,
I can pay.
I can do this,
Yeah.
it might get you something.
I had an employee at an exit interview say that their one regret was that they left 7 hours of sick leave on the books.
Oh my,
That they didn't use that. So if we can,
There's always.
curve that.
if we can try and curb that in some way, I think we're better for it.
Okay,
So I will prepare a policy that states we will provide payout at 10% of their sick leave balance. As of their final date of employment. No minimum time required to get that and a maximum payout of 200 hours.
Mhm.
Yep, okay.
And then if you can strategically word the last
Yeah, and
paragraph,
I'm wondering even if, I mean, we have that already in
Or you do.
so maybe we don't
in
need
policy,
to.
so perhaps it's just a good reminder to department heads, like, this is another tool you already have, probably to curb that is remember that you could request that doctor's note, you know,
Perfect.
whenever, if you're questioning if this is legit, just ask for that doctor's note, so, yeah, okay. Okay. That's good, then, those are the two policy issues. The last one is the logo contest, I don't think I've even met with you at the commission regarding this was kind of a last minute, like, topic at the department head meeting, there's about the need to brand, you know, as a county, this website redesign that we're working on right now already, and for recruitment efforts, it's just, I know a county who went so far as to create like a marketing video and, you know, they've got videos on YouTube, much larger county with a lot more resources, obviously, but, we don't have an image or a brand, I guess, per se. So these are the top three. I think I sent these all to you. How would you as a commission like to proceed with choosing the final one? How we arrived here is I just did that Survey Monkey survey, it was sent to everybody. Do you as a commission want to vote on the final? Do you want me to send these final three back to everybody again to just vote, pick one, the top one? How would you like to proceed?
Any thoughts?
So I'd say we pick it.
I would too,
In the.
we could get it tied again, so.
We could, yeah, as you can see, there is a tie for the top one. When we put it out there, we just said that the logo will be chosen by Walsh County officials, so I left it open enough that we could decide though, because we hadn't talked about it, so.
Amy, do you have anything?
I just am always looking from my marketing gal that works for me, that she always talks about just the replication and being sure that things are easy to be able to mimic, you know, so if you have too much detail.
Yeah.
And there was one I really liked, but when I looked at it, I was like, how would you even see that? You know, in black and white or whatever. if you had
Same
that.
way,
Yeah,
But yeah, I'm not, whatever, I think we just need to move forward on it, so.
how do we wanna do it then?
so there's two top ones, I don't know how you wanna do it, do you want me to, have you guys send you something to just vote upon, do you wanna vote right now publicly?
Just write it on a piece of paper, then you don't know how everybody voted, you're done, reveal it.
My only concern when I look at the logos is I want to make sure the entire county is represented, not just one segment of the county. I felt like on the logos, we had segments of the county represented, but not the entire county.
Yeah.
So I have some concerns there.
Mine were too, yeah.
The very nice logos.
Yep,
It's okay, just. Yeah, logos were very nice, but I do have some concerns there, because I think one logo represented kind of your beets and
Yeah, there's,
potatoes.
yeah,
One represents your grains. Nothing that I saw represented the entire county. That would be my only concern.
I share the same feelings as Christie. The third one, I like it, but it's a lot, it's hard to duplicate, I think, unless they don't say, I don't know. But when you're doing screen printing and designs, when you're adding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 colors to it, that's a lot. And I only know that because my sister does screen printing,
right.
so.
I think you could also, you know, in terms of logo design, you can take one common image and you can modify it just slightly to simplify it. So if you were gonna try to create a black and white version of that one, for
Yes,
example,
that would,
you would probably remove some of that detail and that color,
Yeah.
right? So I think logo designers and perhaps the people even that submitted these would say, you know, if we went back to them and said, hey, can you give us a couple of simplified versions of this to use for varying purposes, that I think they would maybe perhaps do that. I know, my son just had a logo designed for they just created a company, and so they had hired somebody and they had 4 or 5 different options, you know, like color, black and white, with a white background, a black background, you know, like people who are good at this know how to do that relatively
Yeah.
easily, right?
Yeah, but then again, and this is our time to say and be picky, I think.
Yeah.
Like the third one has Walsh County, North Dakota and Red River Valley. Well, you were saying it's the Red River Valley, and we're missing out
Not all
western
of
Walsh
them.
I
County,
don't like
so
that river.
I like the logo, but it's, we're singling out.
Mhm.
All 3 of them are great, we're just singling out all of Walsh County in every one of them.
Yeah.
Amy?
And I agree, like, it brings me back to when I opened and Lisa went out and to find logos, we have several logos, you know, so she uses whichever one, so I agree, I think the good artists know.
Yeah.
This is not the only one that we will use different ones varying and they would provide that. The first one, I get that that's potatoes and beets, but that's our county, I'm guessing, like that's the shape of our county, so why would that be wrong?
The shape, yes,
Of
yeah.
using that, like what would be wrong with that being the logo on things that we needed? Or I don't know, do you have other, like, what would be representative of the remainder of the county? You know, sometimes I
At
think it's
least
hard for
wheat.
artists to
At least
know
wheat,
what to add.
Ernie.
If you went, so you didn't pick on crops, what about agriculture? You got tractors or pictures of tractors or just somebody standing in the field or whatever, so you're not really. I mean, we look at Walsh County, if you really try to figure out all the crops, my crop adjuster, there's many crops. in Walsh County. So if you just went away from the crops, use that logo deal and then put a farm picture or whatever of a farmer and.
Yeah, but that's very deep, Ernie, like you don't want
It is.
things like that in the logo.
No,
Yeah.
It's too,
Yeah, I get, like, it's really tricky.
I always really like
guess,
that.
I guess, yeah.
Oh, was that the image up there?
So I guess that's one, I think that's the one I picked with, you know, it had the WC, and I like the middle one. You know, just plain Walsh County, North Dakota, established, you know, one with a WC, just something plain like that, and maybe we should have specified that a little bit more, I don't know what we wanna do.
Well, this is the difference between having a contest versus hiring someone and telling them what to do. I mean, that's how they are when they are.
I look at, when I do all my tables and stuff and they do logos, what they can do and change, it's unbelievable if you got somebody that's got a program and knows what they're doing. Cause I've had hats made and everything else and changed logos and done logos for farmers and everything, and it's, man, it probably wouldn't be dumb. It wouldn't cost much to do it, to get somebody to do that layout.
But then, I don't wanna go back, we've done this already, and, you know, we haven't picked one yet, so we can go back and have people listen to our Zoom, what we're talking about, and resubmit. I don't know, what do you guys think?
Maybe some of the feedback that you
Yes,
provided.
yes,
Well, that would be my question is it the fairest for these top 3 to give them a chance based on the, you know, to give a little feedback? Because again, it might be just based on what do these artists produce and what's consistent and what we like. I mean, it's hard for them to read our minds and be like, what do you want on there?
And we gave them 0
Right.
direction, right? So the only questions that I received was that, so what is the purpose of this logo? So thinking about size and, you know, how much detail, just as you've been seeing, Amy. So one person did ask me that early on, so, we didn't give them any of that, yeah.
Can I ask, I don't have them in front of me, but that bottom logo, can I get that? Oh, you got one.
it's in the emails now, she emailed it again. But that's it.
I'm just looking at that bottom logo, oh, that was okay. It's like we just took off Red River Valley and put established 18, is it 18?
Oh, that's,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you are representing all, just a thought.
It's more generic.
it still is quite
Detailed, yeah.
to replicate, but I don't know. You know, it's everybody, if it's on I'm sure she used a program to do it.
Not a cow anywhere on it.
Right, there's not-
Well, and Yeah,
I think that's why before our seal had nothing, right? It was just
yeah, that's
very
why
plain.
the WC.
Well, that WC was not anything, that was, I think on Dell just put that together. 'cause we
No,
didn't have anything,
But
you know,
she
so
might have
that
got,
WC.
WC is all over this courthouse, which was established in 1881.
And there was one logo that came that
That's, I
was
voted
very,
for
that's
that.
what I voted for as well. It was very generic. It
Yeah,
was very nice,
Very simple.
modern,
yeah,
very generic.
And that, I mean, I just, it doesn't. It says Welsh County officials, so if you don't wanna look at just these top three, based on all the feedback that you're, you know, you could go back and look at that one too, maybe that's how you. This was to kind of give you a little bit of direction,
Mhm.
how do people feel about these various logos? However, if you've never dealt with marketing, you're not gonna know that things like, well, these might not translate very well into use, you know, for various purposes, so.
Mhm.
If you wanna pull that one, up, I didn't print that one off, but that's.
I was just looking for a year.
Madam Chairman.
Yes,
My feeling on this is, I think based on what was voted is a good representation of the level of what these artists can do. And what they can produce. So my personal opinion is I think we provide some feedback to see what else they can provide to be, because if you find the right person
Yeah.
that knows what they're doing, it's gonna make our life a lot simpler than trying to work with someone who doesn't understand that
yeah,
and can't tweak, like,
Yeah.
you have the right person, they can do whatever we want that way, it doesn't have to end here. So I would like to see a second with a little more feedback to them to see what else they give us and go from there.
Sure.
Are you talking just these three?
Yeah,
Okay,
I am,
Mhm.
I just think that if we just open it and there's anyone that can provide that, in the end, we may still be having to hire someone to
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
figure out how to make 4 logos that will work on whatever print we need, and I just want this to be done and in the right hands.
Yep.
I think that.
Okay, is everybody fine with that?
No.
Okay, and then you will
I'll reach
contact
out to
them
them,
and
yep, and ask
give them
them,
those points that we
I can
talked
either
about.
give them the points, or I can even ask them to
Watch
listen,
this.
yeah,
Yeah.
watch the meeting, because I think you've all shared some excellent tips and feedback, so, okay.
Yeah, have them look at that and listen to the concern on western side and all of that.
Right, yep, okay. Okay,
Okay, any more questions for Tanya? Okay,
okay,
thanks,
thank you.
Tanya.
Tanya.
Okay.
One. Everybody.
I usually get my papers on.
Most of the time I have it closed, so it doesn't splash. There you go, yeah. No. Good morning.
Good morning, Jason.
The first things I have for you are just some utility permits that came through. One is from a request from the Fortville Co-op for putting a water line into their, new fertilizer plant on their side. They tried to dig wells and couldn't find anything that could work for them, so they've got permission to, from the other side of the road to get water, but now they just need to cross the highway. I have no problems with granting them that permission to bore the lines, and the contractor they have has done many borings in the past. They'll be deep enough. I don't have any concerns with that one. So looking for approval and a signature for the Fortville Co-op for that.
So moved.
Christie, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Question, they're gonna go deep with it, aren't they?
Yeah, they'll be deep enough. They won't have to worry about for any of the road, and they'll be deep enough. We won't have to
Okay.
get freezing.
Yeah.
So I'm concerned.
Any more discussion on the utility permit for Fordville Co-op? Hearing none, I'll take the roll. Christie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Myself, motion carried.
Thank you. The second one is for Walsh River Water. They've had a lot of breaks along their County 4 stretch for the water line. They got new line going in the areas. They're still looking to get bones underneath the roads. They've done it repeatedly for since I started. They do a great job making sure that everything's deep enough and out of our way for future references. So just looking for signatures for that so they can make sure they're providing the services for our residents.
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any more discussion? Hearing none. Danny,
Yes.
Amy,
Yes.
Ernie,
Yes.
Christie?
Yeah,
Myself, yes, motion carried.
Thank you. Last agenda item I had was traffic owners from our discussions of the last commission meeting. I sent you out two that I had received. One was for just online where it's solely a counter for the dining. It's $492 plus an additional $150, but that's all you get is counts. It'll tell you how many vehicles and it'll tell you what kinds of vehicles. The other one from International Dynamics that I sent out, their Dynamics is $4,800, and that's a traffic classifier, and that one has tubes. So those tubes eventually will get holes in them, you have to replace them, you have to do all those things that come with the program, so you don't have to worry about that portion. That one's $4,800, but with that, it can actually tell you the vehicles that are going across, the semi counts, the different things, the speeds. The issue with that type of item is the tubes on the gravel roads. You're gonna be replacing tubes. It's just something you're gonna have to. So you have a constant reoccurring fee that you're gonna have in the future for it. The last one I got is I just handed you out. That's from JMR Technologies. They've been in the industry for a while. They have the same tube, one that International Dynamics has, but they have something different as well. And what I present you here is their version that's a radar. So it can give you just the speed counts. So we can use that for the sheriff department as well to figure out when people are finding out their excessive speeds and give them that. So you can try and help in that aspect for the complaints we get around the county for speed control to try and help them know when to be in the areas. It'll also give us a generalization list of where we are for truck traffic and car traffic. The one version is $3,058. The upper version bundle is $4,658. The upper level just gives you more clarification on the size of the vehicle, the length of the vehicle, so it's better in that range. Each of those actually from JMAR for an additional $600, they would actually fill in a field laptop to go with it, where the program is on it. The laptop is yours, the computer program is yours. It's once you purchase it, this is the purchase. Any upgrades, you get them. There's no extra fees, there's no classifications. It's actually Bluetooth ready, so it has that aspect of it too. I guess for me, if you're looking at the same, basically the same price for the radar as you are the tubes, and you don't have to replace the tubes, it's better. It's also better to me that you have the radar, because when you put the tubes out, people will just generalize it, well, there's a traffic count, I wanna get it. They're not gonna spend all their time doing it, but some people will make initiated measures just to go through that. Because the tubes are on the road, and you know what you're looking at, and they want the road to get repaired. So the radar aspect of it, we be able to hide it a little bit more, where we'll be as, here we are, trying to get the tracks. For me, I think that would be the way to go, is to, if we're gonna do this, to get the classifications where we can find out how heavy of the traffic we are. Getting the semi counts, I think, is larger equipment is gonna be crucial for how we develop what we're doing in the future. Just a general counter, I don't think gets us what we're going to need. So, and it's be my recommendation to go with the radar with the JMAR Technologies. And I guess between the two, one is actually called the Law Enforcement 2 radar kit, and the next one is just their Black Cat, so Black Cat 2, which is just more sensitive and gets you better readings on the length of the vehicle. So whether it's a trax or a tandem or a semi with a pop or a semi pulling a pop, you know, or you're pulling doubles on those type of things, so. Those are what, I was able to find, and bring back to you for today.
Yes, sir.
You got money for this?
Yeah, we can find the money for this to purchase these.
So we wouldn't have to take the general fund or anything.
And you said that you would basically own this, so you could use it on any roads you wanted.
We can use it any road
Can
we
move
want,
it.
move it to wherever we put the gravel, it'll work on gravel, it'll work on pavement, it'll work wherever we're looking for, and it'll give us that option to still you get information from the DOT when they're doing their accounts with us. But they do their accounts every so often, you get just a few counters, this will give us the option to have at least one of these that we can move around and do everything that we're looking for. Plus tap into them for future numbers as well, but this one gives us a little bit more information on what the DOT might have here.
So your department, which one would you like to see, the Black Cat or that first one?
I think for what we're looking at, we can get either one of them, honestly, they'll do what we're looking for, it's just how much detail we're looking at. The Black Cat 2 gets you a little bit more information. Do we need it? I don't know, for $1,000, how much more that's going to get us, honestly.
It's almost 1,600.
Yeah, well, yeah, 600.
I'm thinking.
Yeah,
Amy?
Madam Chairman, and I mean, the Black Cat, you're kind of saying to determine maybe a semi or a length, but at the end of the day, we know that's a big part of most of our
Yep.
roads. So if you're looking, counts are counts, right? If it's more traffic, then you can kind of probably take a percentage and just guesstimate that is.
yeah, with this, we won't have to do as much guesstimate, you know, even with the radar, we're doing it's a semi. You're not gonna know, what is it a 48 foot or a 53 foot or a 53 foot with a pup? That ask point really doesn't, you know, with the heavier traffic that are coming across, they're most likely overloaded. Or with permits or without permits, it's just the way it is, that's allow us to do it.
So the law enforcement one, you still would know what was a semi, just not the length.
Yeah,
Ernie?
I'll make a motion, we go with that law enforcement 2 for 3,058. Sounds like about what we need.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
yeah, the laptop's not included in this, it would be an extra 600 for if we wanted a laptop, if you had a laptop, they go with.
Any more questions
Have a
for
laptop,
Jason?
Then I think you can handle it.
Ernie?
So do you want the laptop in it or?
If we had the laptop, I could send it out and I wouldn't have to be the only one that goes out to it. I could give it to Dean and have him set up
So you gotta take the laptop out there to get it, okay.
on some level. Yeah.
Well, I'll include the laptop in the purchase then, in my motion.
On the motion, okay. Any more discussion? Hearing none? Take the roll. Christie?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carried.
Thank you. And with that, that's everything I have for you today. Unless you have anything for me.
Nope, we'll take just a few minute break. For a Meeting back to order. And we have Dawn Mant, she was here last time to talk about a proposal that she wanted, and we'll let her go again.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Did you receive the meeting materials? Would you like me to just give an overview again, or did you want to?
Yeah, just a quick overview. Don't go through all of it because we,
Yeah, so I guess I would focus on the concept paper, which is the colorful paper. Do you want me to share my screen? I don't know, or
well,
it's just
they
the
can't.
the front, okay. Okay, so the front and back of that is an overview of what we've been proposing. We had posted the final draft of the application on the 22nd of June on our website. So we have worked through the full application materials at this point. Our request is going to exceed $50 million for Region 4. And within this, we are asking, proposing that we would acquire and completely rebuild and restore 3 to 5 manufactured housing communities or mobile home courts in the region and replace upwards of 250 pre-1976 manufactured housing units. We have kind of it's a 6-year program, so it will be fairly comprehensive. We'll begin with planning, really doing an assessment. We've done some high-level assessments. Some of the counties have better information available than others. Walsh County, of course, as I mentioned at the last meeting, has a lot of gold stars in this area. The second part of it will be the community outreach and education and forming an advisory board that includes residents of these mobile home parks. As we design and provide that education, we will also do home buyer and financial education to those folks. One of our biggest goals is to provide local control and local ownership of these facilities. So whether or not we would work with local owners and transfer to land trusts or other nonprofit possible owners for these facilities. So therefore, the investments that we would be able to make would be long-term, and the goal being to sustain affordability in these places and upgrade the housing and increase livability. And then again, the focused investment being on the grants or loans for the rehabilitation. We've actually removed, given the scale of what we've proposed, and we've discovered a ton of pre-1976 mobile homes in the region. So again, upgrading those facilities and bringing them into some more climate-friendly, energy-friendly environments. So again, we're asking HUD for 50 million. We've been able to scan many draft applications from around the country. We discovered one yesterday from Bismarck. So that I think is the only other one going in from North Dakota. We believe that this application will be highly competitive. There's only $250 million available nationwide. So whether or not we would be, funded at that full level or potentially reduced to a smaller level. But again, we've been pushing hard and believe that we would be competitive. One question that maybe struck me after meeting with you folks recently and others is, why are we asking the counties for help in this project? Because these facilities are located within cities. And the county level governments are helping. I'm getting feedback. Can you hear it okay, or?
Yes.
Okay. At the county level, it would count all the jurisdictions within the counties and provide us that partnership approach to be able to go in and figure out exactly how we would prioritize which facilities we would be looking to acquire and to work with. I think I'll leave it at that, Madam Chairman, and see if there are any specific questions. The request before the commission is a letter of support, entering into the memorandum of understanding and to consider a financial commitment.
Any questions for Dawn beforehand?
Madam Chairman, at the recent regional council meeting, we were discussing this, and even Barry Wilford was talking from Grand Forks County, just looking at, I don't wanna say low hanging fruit, but just something that could really make an impact fairly quickly. When you think about building a home and how much time even that takes, and looking at multiple mobile parks around the county. I mean, from Grafton to Arddock to, there's several, Park River, a lot of options, and the discussion was had, could there be two, when you think of what mobile home parks were and how single mobile homes, how tight. Well, maybe it's making two lots and potentially foundation or using Mr. Gemmell or those options to become more of, not mobile homes, but a potential new home for many people that could be a chance at homeownership in a community setting, that would develop and revive in, I don't wanna say, but the quickest way probably possible that we could produce. I mean, I hear nonstop, just like, I was talking to a gal from Hoople, and she just said, yeah, things are going well, we just need places to. Perspective of support, I don't think there is a reason we shouldn't be open to this, because it could change a lot of community, especially smaller communities, to give them housing options.
Danny?
My fear is, how do you police it? How do you oversee it? I guess I would, excuse me, I'd rather see subsidizing an interest buy down and letting these people do it themselves instead of just all now giving them the money.
Well, Dawn, we're not just giving the money, correct?
No, what we would be doing is just assuring affordability,
Excuse
so.
me, Dawn, can you just speak up a little bit more? Do we have it as high as we can?
I don't think.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, I'm working with my computer mic, so let me know if this is better or.
Yeah, that's better.
Okay, so Denny, I asked the same questions with Lisa on our team about how do we impact affordability and how are we helping people? So the assistance would be provided, let's say, for example, we would buy out at some small level these pre-1976 models, determining a fair market value of some kind. We would then help those folks get into a modern mobile home in today's standards. And the gap, the maximum loan payment that they would qualify for would be at 30% of income, which is the federal guideline for affordability. We would then take a second mortgage behind any bank lending, so that we would provide what's called a soft second mortgage. So it sits out there. If that homeowner were ever to sell that unit, our mortgage stays in place. And we assure that the next buyer is also a low to moderate income person in our region. So nobody is technically enriched by this program. We're upgrading housing availability as well as addressing slum and blight in the region.
But how much are we adding for people to move into the region in this case?
In this case, we would potentially be able to open additional slots. We have seen, based on our cursory analysis, that there are many mobile homes parks that have vacancies. So for us to reconstruct and make them more appealing, they've become, many in the region have become a bit of an eyesore and not safe places to live. In our letters of support, we have a letter of support from the Grand Forks County Sheriff. And just citing all of the issues that they've been having in Amarillo, for example, as well as the Amarillo Police Chief has written in support. So we would be in potentially enabling some additional occupancy by just renovating these facilities or these parks, and making them more attractive and potentially more spaces available. And we do see this as kind of one of those immediate solutions. We talk about housing every single day in my office. In fact, just this morning, I was doing a final review of our housing study for the entire region. And in essence, we could possibly get into a new mobile home for $125,000. We're doing new construction of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in Lakota right now, and that's at about $345,000. New construction, stick built.
That's a big difference. Well,
So
yes,
it is
Ernie.
an affordable housing approach. It's one that North Dakota has not focused much on in our scan of other programs across the country. There are many states that have focused on manufactured housing communities. And in fact, Lisa is going today to meet with the governor's office. They're doing a housing listening session in Harvey. So we're sharing our information also and trying to embed some of these recommendations into the state housing strategies as well.
So Don, if you, let's say you're doing one mobile park area or wherever. Are you thinking of, and I know you said in there purchase the older ones, but what happens if the older ones don't wanna buy out and now I'm a new one and I wanna come in and I wanna have a nice place, do the cement deal and maybe 2 lots? Are people gonna wanna do that when there's a bunch of garbage around them? I mean, I think of Vesteyville, everybody's mad at him that there's garbage and you go to these trailers all around the county. And there's always about 4 or 5 of them that are just run down and everything else. So if those aren't bought out, how are people gonna really be wanting to move in with them and spend $125,000 and then have a neighbor that's messy and I just don't see that happening unless you do a whole new park or something, because I sure wouldn't do it. I'm not, you gotta think about your resale and everything else, and if I put a nice, beautiful, let's say it's a double wide, build it all up and do your lawn and everything else, and all of a sudden I got a distasteful looking place next to me, what's that gonna do for me? I don't
Like
know.
included in our housing study is just addressing slum and blight. And often this is a local enforcement issue than more than anything.
Yeah.
So cleaning up those sites, I think, is a city responsibility, and that is included in our study as well. The state provided what they called slum and blight grants earlier this year. So the state is attuned to this need as well, but tending to dilapidated or vacant properties is definitely an enforcement issue. I know in Amaretto, for example, they've been taking it slowly, maybe 3 units at a time. There's a lot of vacant pre-1976 units in a mobile home park that has 200 slots in it. So it's doing exactly what you're suggesting, Denny, or Ernie, is taking down the attractiveness of that entire facility. Then right across the street from Grand Sky, which is projecting to grow by 1,000 jobs in the next 5 years. So I have a letter of support from Prairie Development in our application saying that single-handedly is what's holding and withholding additional commercial or other investment in Amaretto, single-handedly.
Madam Chairman, and Minto is one that spoke up really highly in their housing and what they see, but I agree, cities, whether it's ordinances or whatever you have to do, there has to be, community, multi-level collaboration, communication, and working together. And I don't look at this, from an owning perspective. I just think we need to be supportive of them. And yeah, you can look ahead and say, well, what if? Well, what if it becomes that between the different entities, we can make better places for people to live that they want? Why? Yeah, you can look all you want ahead and think of what could happen. Well, the other way could go too. I just don't think you can make a decision based on the what ifs always. So, yeah.
Dawn, what if, and not that it should matter on whether we vote in favor of giving you the funds. What are the other counties giving?
Currently, we've identified the most need based on our preliminary assessment in Walsh and in Grand Forks County. Grand Forks County approved a $20,000 commitment. And again, in a $50 million project, these contributions are great at the local level, but not as significant in the big picture. So in our mind, it's a level of support that shows HUD that there is a local commitment and buy-in to the concept as well. But if you review our application materials on our website, you'll see that we pulled Amaretto, Minto, and Grafton as examples of the types of projects we're talking about. And we've included some detailed information from those communities.
Yes,
Dawn, it was my understanding from the last meeting, I think I understood this correctly. You said this would be an initial contribution, that there would probably be more requests in the future. Is that correct?
I'm not sure yet. I think it will depend on how far along we get with HUD. If we get to a place where we're accepting a lesser amount, when we get into the project planning, I think what I would propose is that we just continue to come back and provide updates as we move through this. What we've put together so far is pretty cursory and high level. So as we get into the more details, and we see opportunities for additional ways to partner, we would bring those forward.
Okay, and then the next part of my question is, are you requesting funds from JDA as well? Because usually anything to do with, housing or this type of thing comes through our JDA office.
We have not. I'm well aware of the status of the JDA budget at this point. There is not a plethora of funds available. We have continued to approach the JDA on regional issues such as the destination development plan, such as workforce development, housing development, and I'm afraid we're stretching those budgets as well to tackle these other issues. So I guess that's why I'm coming to you. Stacy's budget for the forecasted budget, and even to get through 24, is very tight.
thank you. I guess to me, it's a way of showing that we, care about having housing available. That we want to welcome people in because we are so short of workforce. And, having manufactured housing years ago was a thing, and then it got to be like, well, maybe it's not so great now, and it shouldn't be that way. But I think this is a good chance for us to make improvements on that and show that we can give a little bit of money towards going in that direction. Like I said, we are short of housing. We have people here. I mean, I'm sure even when we have new people coming into the sheriff's department, where am I gonna get a place that I can afford? And, you can live next to somebody who doesn't mow their lawn or anything like that. Just talking this morning about how each of us, how we live and how we expect things to be. We can't always make our neighbor do the same thing, but I think supporting this is just a good way of showing that we are welcoming people here and we want to try to provide some housing, not provide for them, but show our support.
And Madam Chair, there has been stuff with the workforce too, like for farmers and other places that are looking for other unit developments that way. So that's also been a consideration of that might become an option for, to be able to maybe a whole area or to have interest, if you will, because that's also something we're seeing, we all know are difficult. They're taking up a lot of the housing stock, right?
Yeah, there's farmers buying up houses left and right for their workers. We have a lot of farmers that are short of help. And, they can't find a place for somebody to even live, so.
But there's also an incentive program for farmers to buy these farm sites.
Well, but
And
that's good.
I just think it should be between the state and the cities. I don't think county should be involved in subsidizing housing. I think we could end up owning a bunch of trailer houses.
Dawn? Could we end up owning a bunch of trailer houses?
No.
No, I don't.
Well, you said we'd be taking a mortgage on them, a second mortgage.
Well, actually, the Red River Regional Council would be with HUD funding. So, and again, it's a way to provide affordable housing. Currently, different ways that affordable housing is being brought in. around the state and that our small towns are missing out on is the ability. The state has invested in thousands of new apartments all over the state in our large cities. This is one way for us to mobilize some of those funding levels. We've actually helped move our people out of our small towns and into our larger cities by these big state investments. So we are already doing some of the things. And affordability is a key issue on many fronts, and trying to keep the affordability factor at 30% or less. Other ways that people in Walsh County are getting stretched, for example, are the childcare. Childcare is amounting to 20 to 30% of gross income, whereas the federal guideline is 7%, just to show how out of whack some of our characteristics are. So even helping these folks in these ways to live better lives and to be able, it's not a handout, it's a hand up. And like I said, the regional council would be the one actually taking a second mortgage and assuring that those units are affordable going forward. Another way would be, an example in Grafton would be the Villa de Reamer project that we did back in the 90s. We had 12 sources of public money in that project. And it's enjoyed 100% occupancy nearly the entire, since the mid 90s. So there are lots of ways that public money is getting used in our large cities as well as our smaller cities. The Walsh County Housing Authority is providing housing vouchers for people to supplement their rent based on their income levels. Just examples of how public resources have been used and are being used, and in some ways providing competitiveness to our larger communities at the expense of our smaller ones.
Yes.
So are the local cities in the county investing in this too? Like the Mintos, Park River, Grafton, whatever?
Yeah, I would expect so.
They got a
Once we
bigger-
dig into, this is just simply to get us to the goalpost of getting the federal application in and competitive. If we actually get to a funding level, then we would be coming back once we've fully inventoried all of these units and created the prioritization, how we would actually select which ones get worked with. Then we would be working with at the community level.
Then that's where you would go to the cities and then work all that out, correct?
Maybe so she girl.
Sorry,
Are you
my
there,
connection blanked out for a second. I didn't.
Okay,
I am.
and so then that's when you would go.
Madam Chairman, one statistic
Yes.
in our housing study that I was reviewing this morning is that the national standard is for every job, there's a need for 0.77 houses. So if you think of, we have almost 1,000 H-2A visa workers in the region that are expending 10 months out of the year in our region that we've not accounted for in the housing.
How many? How many?
We're at 950 H-2A visa workers in Region 4 this year. That's up from 300, 600. It's almost, the number has been exponentially growing on an annual basis as people have.
The region.
The region. A lot of it is Walsh County, and I think we just heard either was an article or something on the news about how all these workers, the farmers need them. They wouldn't be able to get their crops off without them.
Well, no.
Well, I'm just saying what was in the news about what farmers are saying.
So where do we get the money for this if we do it? I'm not against supporting it, but I mean, we got a tight budget too in the county.
I would say we have money in our general fund for this. I mean, I don't know where else you would take it from.
Question?
Yeah, yeah, well, I gotta have a motion to,
I will make a motion, that Walsh County signs a letter of support and proposes financial commitment. 20,000.
is there a second? Is there a second? I'll ask one more time for a second. Okay. Motion dies for lack of second. Sorry, Don. Any more comments or discussion?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
When we did our housing focus groups, Minto was the loudest as it related to manufactured housing communities. There is no cost to a letter of support and agreeing to a memorandum of understanding. If we have no letter or memorandum of understanding, I don't believe that HUD would permit us to invest any of these funds in Walsh County.
Do I have a motion to at least sign the letter of support and a memorandum of understanding?
So moved. Madam Chairman.
Overn. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
So this motion then is essentially just without the funds or without the financial commitment.
Yes. Right, Dawn? We would
Yes.
just,
If there would be a smaller commitment that the group would be willing to consider, I might suggest that. And we use the verbiage in our office. It's hard to expect others to invest in our communities when we aren't. So it's along those lines.
any more comments or discussion or questions? For the letter of support and memorandum of understanding. Hearing none, I'll take the vote. Christie?
Yes.
Ernie?
Yes.
Danny?
Yes.
Amy?
Yes.
Myself, yes. Motion carried.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Would we have any interest of giving less money?
Not right now.
Okay, so do you want me to get together with you, Dawn, and do this letter of support and memorandum?
That sounds great, Karen. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll reach out and we'll find a time to do that.
Okay, I'm gonna be gone all this week. Do you want me to come now or not, or just wait till next week?
It's up to you. I'm free if you are. No,
Okay, I'll come
I'm
down
not,
after.
however, I'm not in
meeting.
the office. I'm working remotely right now.
Oh, okay. I'll get a hold of you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dawn.
Have a good day.
Okay. Well, we've covered everything with unfinished business and everything that was on the agenda. Is there anything more before the meeting for this board? Hearing none,